Hey everybody, let's get on with that diet update right now. Here it is. So, honestly, weighing myself this morning was an absolute nightmare. And I'll tell you why. So, if you don't recall, my mom got a brand new scale that we both split, me and her, because we're trying to watch our weights and get down to our ideal weight. Mine being 145. Now, the thing is, even though this practical scale doesn't need a battery in order to function, because it functions the old fashioned way with the numbers, like and just like stepping on it, and you do get a decent sense of how much you weigh. My issue is that, like, it's not like big, bold, obvious letters or numbers, I mean, that tell you what it is. Like, you kind of have to somewhat interpret what you weigh with it because it has like 140 and then it jumps to 160 and in between is like a little mark there and then in between are even littler marks. And so it landed between like the 40 and 160, and it was like a little bit above the mark that would have been like 150, and it was like somewhere in between there. So it was difficult to interpret what that exactly meant. Like, am I 155? So I tried using all of the battery operated scales. Uh, the first one, it's pretty much out of battery, so it no longer works right now. You have to get a brand new battery for it. It takes those circular batteries. So that was a bust. Then there was another one which we put fresh batteries in, but it's really finicky and it doesn't give you the same result every time. Like, I stepped on it, said I was 155.5, but then I stepped on it again, then it said I was 154.5. Then I tried stepping on it again and said I was 153.2. Like, and I stepped on again, and then finally it's at 153.2. And I stepped on a third time, it was 153.2. I was like, I guess I'm 153.2. And then we had another scale that was my sister's that she allowed us to use that I tried weighing myself on, and it said like I was like 153.6. So basically, what I'm saying is that trying to weigh myself is kind of been a nightmare this morning. Like, I went through different measuring tools, and the best way I can surmise is I'm somewhere in between 153 to 155.5. Based on the consistent reading of 3 times from the one that was being really finicky, the digital measurement tool, I guess I'm 153.4. And the weird thing is, I measured myself after using the restroom, and then, of course, like, this wasn't like measuring myself after drinking like 3 cups of water. This was measuring myself just as soon as I woke up, which made it even more annoying because I really wanted to get like some water in me because I was dehydrated from sleeping and not drinking anything for like 8 hours. But yeah, no dice. It was crazy. Very, very, very annoying weighing process this morning for sure. All right, I've complained about that long enough. Let's move on to what was eaten today. Today, in the morning, I gotta be honest, I was kind of a lazy bones. I didn't really make any food. Instead, I made a coffee with zero sugar coffee mate, um, butter cookie flavoring put in, which has 0 grams of carbs and is 10 calories for 1 tablespoon. That was pretty good. Although I will admit it did have a slightly medicine-y aftertaste, which I wasn't a fan of. When it started, it was promising, but the further it sits on your tongue, the less appealing it gets. So that's kind of annoying, but it gives you enough of a vibe of what you're drinking to make you think you're drinking something kind of naughty, but not really. Um, and then I just had a spoonful of sunflower butter. So sunflower seed butter, basically. That was my breakfast. Coffee mate, zero sugar butter cookie flavor, and sunflower butter. That was what I ate in the morning. Just a spoonful. Pretty crazy, I know. Not a very unusual meal. Well, let's move on to the next meal, which was more, I guess you could say, usual. This one was two keto breads that were toasted with mayonnaise, and then scrambled egg that I put a slice of cheddar cheese on top of and had that melt on top. And I fried 4 slices of bacon on a pan and I put those on top of the cheese. The cheese was kind of thick, so the bottom, when it was like put on top of the eggs, started to kind of melt, but the top was being a bit more stubborn. But as soon as I put the freshly fried bacon on the cheddar on the top, it really started to help make it melt better, so that was good. I put salt and pepper in the egg that I was scrambling, and yeah, it was pretty good, pretty good. I did enjoy it. I also had another cup of coffee with the coffee mate in it. I think I was starting to get used to it at this point. And oh yeah, I had a sparkling water blackberry flavor with sweetened with sucralose, zero sugar beverage, a bottled beverage. I did enjoy. I thought that was pretty good. And that's what I had for lunch. Then for dinner, I had like I think it was like 36 grams of chicharrones with Mexican cheese sprinkled on top, like 2 ounces of Mexican cheese, melted in the microwave. And then I put a little bit of chamoy. Um, what's that sauce that is kind of sweet but a little spicy? I'm forgetting the name of it right now. It's like red. Um, I put a sweet and spicy sauce on that was red. Man, I don't remember the name of it right now for some reason. And I also had some Louisiana hot sauce, which added a nice tartness to these chicharrones. And I have to say, I really did enjoy this. The cheese definitely added a good amount of flavor. The chicharrones, when warmed up, I don't know, they taste pretty good to me. It kind of reminded me of like bacon a little bit, which makes sense because chicharrones are like fried pork skins, right? And bacon's like fried pork wherever they cut that part of the meat. So, yeah. And, yeah, really enjoyed that. The sauces added a good, sweet, but spicy kick, and I give it a thumbs up. After that, I had another sparkling water. This one was lemonade. Wait, no, this one was watermelon flavored. Very good. I really enjoyed that. I liked that one a lot. And yeah, I think that might be it for what was eaten. Very sparse meal options today, I would say. Oh yeah, I got bored, so I made another cup of coffee with another coffee mate shot in there. As you could see, like that was the closest thing I could get to something like, Starbucksy. I mean, I'm not a Starbucks guy at all, but I do like a good like creamy and flavorful coffee, and that was like close enough to where I could ignore the weird medicine-y aftertaste and just kind of enjoy what was good about it and not focus on what I didn't like about it. And yeah, I took my vitamins, and there you go. That's what I had today. That's what I put inside of my body. Well, any exercise? Well, I think you can guess now, but hey, I'll tell you anyways. Walking at work. All right, well, and a little bit of running here and there when I was needed in Flash. But of course, not like, too fast, just like a mild jog. So I wouldn't accidentally bump into any customers or anything silly like that. All right, well, now that we have that covered, let's get on to the daily update portion. So, for waking up today, I was super tired, and so I immediately wanted to check my weight, and I went through my issues trying to weigh myself earlier in the video, so I'm not going to go through it here. All I'm going to say is, when I finally found a weight that I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, I decided to go back to sleep. And I said, because I woke up at 7 today. I had my alarm set for 8, so like, oh, I'll just wake up at 8. So I went to sleep around like 7:25 a.m. and my alarm went off for 8. But instead of getting up and like starting the day by doing something productive like journaling or folding my clothes or doing morning stretches or taking a nice morning walk or something that would probably set my mind in a good direction, instead I decided to postpone getting up by saying I'll get up in 10 minutes. So I put 10 minutes on my timer and then I went to sleep. And then 10 minutes passed in a flash while sleeping on my bed. And then I said, another 10 minutes. So we went from 8:10 to 8:20. And then I got up again after a flash. And then I said another 10 minutes. And I just kept on doing that until eventually 9 o'clock came. I was like, fine, I'll get up. And so I got up. And that's pretty much my morning. As soon as I got up, I grabbed my phone. I was scrolling through YouTube, and I found a new video by the YouTube channel Mystic talking, where the channel host Mystic was talking with a developer of PlayStation 1 emulation software on current gen devices, and what are the decisions that drive what games get released on a modern device, what emulated games get the pass and are re-released to the public. It was a fascinating interview, and pretty much what games get available are games that potentially have a decent audience involved that could get the units to go into around the 250,000 mark. So like old games that have a decent following of people that like, or they are brand names that are like safe bets of like, oh yeah, there will be people who know what this is and will definitely tune into that. So yeah, that's pretty much what drives its popularity and whether there will be a decent return based on the time and money invested in the product, which is pretty much, standard business. So, yeah. Well, after I was done watching that and I was drinking my coffee while watching it, I realized it was getting a bit late, so I need to get dressed and ready for work. When I was dressed and ready, I realized I didn't really make any food and I probably would get really hungry, so I thought, what can I eat that will satisfy my metabolism until lunch? And so I decided to take a spoonful of sunflower seed butter and I just ate that, and that was good enough for me. My mom was talking to my eldest sister on FaceTime, and I jumped in and I said hello, and we had a nice little interaction. And then I needed to go, so I said goodbye. And so I went in the car and I drove off to work. And things were pretty nice earlier in the day. Like the morning was very somewhat clear, spotty skies. Like there was still clouds, but it was fairly nice. And the drive was short but sweet. Parked, got out of my car, and got straight to work. Punched in. I was given the schedule by our CSR, and I was looking through to see what my schedule would be like today. Turns out that I would be having a lot for the first hour. I would be having bagging for the second hour, lot for the third hour, and bagging for the fourth hour. Of course, I would have to intermittently take out orders as soon as people arrived waiting in their car for the orders to be taken out. So I had to have the phone on me. That would be used for such a task. We're given work phones that give off like a signal, letting us know that there's a customer out there, and then we have to scan the items and take them out. Pretty straightforward process, but sometimes it gets confusing, as I think if you've seen any of my previous videos, you'd be aware. But yeah, so lot for the first hour was very nice. I really enjoyed, but of course, the thing with lot with the first hour was that today was really busy. It probably has something to do with the fact that Thanksgiving is approaching and people are preparing for the holiday. And so, like, whenever time people have to do what they need to do for the holiday, they'll take it. And that means we get a lot of people sporadically throughout the day, which I am all for, because without people, there's no business. And without business, there is no, support for each worker's lives at the store. So very grateful for every single customer. Yeah, and it was a very, I would say it was a very sporadically busy and hectic day. I had to jump back and forth between check stands, but I also had to check outside to make sure that there wasn't any cart buildup, and if there was, I'd have to bring carts in. And I'd always hand carts to anyone passing by, saying, "Hey, you need a cart?" Sometimes they'd say no, sometimes they'd say yes, sometimes they'd say, "Hey, I want the bigger one," "Hey, I want the smaller one, but thank you," which was good. So yeah, and it was quite busy first hour. So the second hour, also consistently busy in the front end bagging. And then I asked for my first break 10 minutes early, because the third hour, which, at the start of the third hour, you are given a 10-minute break, but if you're given a duty that's time sensitive, like lot or sweeps, it's best advised to ask for your break 10 minutes early. So that's what I did, and I was given the go-ahead by the CSR. So I walked up to the break room, and I did a breathwork meditation from Breath with Sandy. This meditation was pretty good. I chose one that was directly focused on increasing your positivity. So I was like, I could use some positivity in my life. Let me give this a shot. So I tried it out. And did it increase my mood? I'd say it increased my lung capacity. As for mood, I mean, maybe if it was a placebo effect, probably. But in terms of like how I felt, I guess I felt refreshed So in a way, that is a positive mood. So I'd say, yeah, sure, I did feel positive in a way. Um, and relaxed. I walked back downstairs, and when I arrived, I took the vest we wear and I did some carding. Every now and then I would be called back in to take an order out. And yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know about that. Not much too interesting to say there. So I'm going to move on to the last hour. And once again, kind of hard to really say anything interesting other than Bagged said hello to the customers. How you doing? Doing pretty good. How are you? Oh, good. And I would I don't know, sometimes like maybe there'd be an interesting like observation like, "Ooh, I noticed you like this a lot. Ooh, what do you like about it?" Or something like that, but and then I'd hear them say what they like about it. I'd find that quite interesting. Well, lunch came, and so I punched out for lunch. I drove home and I made the sandwich. Uh, at the house, my sister was there. She's recovering currently from a cold, so send best wishes her way. I hope that all is well very soon and that she can overcome this sickness. It's nothing too serious, just a cough, um, and maybe a slightly coarse throat. But regardless, no one wants to have a cough or a coarse throat. So once again, send best wishes. So yeah, I ate my food. I was watching I was watching some episodes of The Smiling Friends on my phone. Uh, I watched like this Halloween horror themed episode that was pretty interesting. It was like the characters were all together, and like it was the boss, it was Pim, it was um man, the yellow guy that I'm forgetting the name of right now, voiced by Zach Heedle, the co-creator of the show. Um, yeah, and then there's the red guy and the green guy, and they like are all gonna order like some takeout or food, and Pim's trying to say, "Hey, let's have pizza," but everyone like seems to be ignoring him until like the yellow guy says, "Hey, let's have pizza," and everyone's like, "Whoa, how did you know how to say that?" And he's like, "I don't know, it just things come to me, I guess." And then we have like a witch that comes in and is like, "Give me 10 cents or I will give you a curse." And they're like, "No, we're not going to give you 10 cents. Get out of here." And then like really weird stuff happens that ultimately is like a like, you know, nightmare fuel. Some really scary animation. Like it's a really well done animation too. Like that's something I do appreciate about the show. Like the animation in the show is very creative and very thoughtful and just fun to watch. The humor can range from really dumb to absurd and funny. Um, yeah. Overall, I would say like pretty engaging episode overall. Um, I started watching a second one that was like about the characters going on a business trip where they're hanging out like a woodlog cabin, but like Pim and Charlie, that's his name. Now I remember because I'm starting to talk about the episodes. The names are starting to be appearing in my head. But yeah, they go out on a jog and then they are trying to find a cryptid, but then they instead find a character named Mother Nature. And Mother Nature doesn't like being littered on, and they decide to help clean up the forest for. And that's where I stopped in that one before I left to go to work. And I like how Mother Nature and all the forest creatures were stop motion animated. That was really fun. I really liked that. That definitely shows a level of creativity and imagination that I deeply appreciate, for sure. Then I needed to go back to work. So I drove back to work. It was starting to get cloudy, and there was no more blue sky in sight. And so I decided to go ahead and go back in, punch in. Before I was able to punch back in, a lot of people were punching out for the day. So it was a bit of a wait, but pretty cool. And yeah, I punched in from my lunch. First hour was a lot, and right when I walked out, it really started to rain. Now, normally I would put on like shoe coverings to keep my shoes from getting soaked and thus get my socks getting soaked from the wet floor. And I did not have shoe coverings. In fact, my right shoe immediately got wet, which immediately got my sock wet. My left shoe was holding it a little better, but by like the 40-minute mark, eventually that did succumb to the water, and so I was walking around after doing a lot for putting on a raincoat. At least I had that keeping me dry, and I did. I get stopped by one of my coworkers who we like to mess around and joke around with each other and like create funny, hilarious stories that get more and more absurd by the minute. Really appreciate this individual. We always make each other laugh, and it's a lot of fun. But it let me know some really sad news about one of their animals. Sadly, left this earth. But I said they're probably waiting for us in heaven. And then he said, "Yeah, and the rain's probably their pee right now." So, it's absurd, silly, dumb things like that make me laugh. But yeah, I like how we can take like a situation that might seem very sad, but we can find the humor in it. That's a lot of fun. But yeah, pushed carts for the first hour of returning from lunch. Next 2 hours honestly was a total blur. I just carted it. I bagged and sometimes took orders out into the rain for the next 2 hours. I was kind of in autopilot mode at this point. Like, sometimes I'd say something kind of funny. Like, for example, like, there was a girl who wanted her candy that her parent bought her, but her parent said, "Before you get the candy, be sure to ask for it." And then she said, "May I have the candy?" I said, "Oh, what's the magic word?" And then she said, and her mom said, "Say please." And then she said, "Please." And it was like, "Excellent, good job." And then I remember afterwards I said to my boss that I was bagging with, you gotta teach them those good manners at an early age, otherwise they'll be uh, they'll be a Squidward when they grow up. And he thought that was funny. Um, so yeah, I made my boss laugh. Yeah, victory! Woo! Yeah, and I do remember there was like a funny little anecdote where I needed to bring a cart in the back of the store that was messed up, like a wheel was messed up when I brought it back. There were two co-bosses out in the back. I was gonna like bring it in, and they said one of them said I look like a mixture between Frodo and Gandalf, and then I put like a little theatrics on. I was like, "Yes, and this cart is one of the worst carts I've ever seen in my life," like something like that, and they thought. I don't know. Maybe they seemed pretty entertained by that, but I'm not 100% sure. um, but yeah, they told me to put the car in the back. I went back and yeah, finished lot first hour. Yeah, did my bagging for the next 2 hours. What I shared was one of the more funnier anecdotes. Yeah, and then the last hour was a mixture between doing lot and bagging. Oh, I remember right before I did my last hour of lot, there was some items that were in the front of the store and I needed to take them to compost. So I asked one of the cashiers if like they think one of the products should go back on the shelf or in compost. They said compost, so I ran over. I threw them in compost, but when I came back, one of the co-bosses wanted a word with me and told me that since staff is so limited and we need all hands on deck in the front, like to please not do go backs or composts until like there if unless there was like sufficient staff in the front end that could like bag, and I needed something to do like something like go backs or things like that. So I was like, all right, and I silently agreed. So yeah, definitely gonna take note of that for next time. And yeah, last hour my socks got super wet. It was crazy. Um, but hey, I was able to do what I was able to do. Punched out, said goodbye to everybody. Went in my car, and I thought, since I'm like walking in my car and my socks are soaked wet, I can't take any more. I'm ordering some like rain boots right now. So I went on Amazon and I found a pair that was originally $45, but because of Black Friday deals, they were $29. I was like, that's a really good deal. So I ordered these rain boots. They're going to be arriving very soon on Sunday. So as soon as those arrive, I'll report back if they actually work, if they're any good, or if they're any comfortable. And you will know when that time comes. So I drove back home. When I got home, I decided to finish the next Smiling Friends episode. It was pretty fun, pretty enjoyable, pretty goofy, pretty silly. And then after that, I decided to watch a guy do a retrospective video on a video game called Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. And it was really deep dive video about like how the game came to be, the company behind it, what the company, the Retro, what Retro is responsible for, like stuff like Donkey Kong Country Trilogy, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Banjo-Kazooie, and how they got bought out by Microsoft from an equal selling from both Nintendo and Rare themselves. So both mutually agreed to allow Microsoft to own 100% stake in the company. And then, unlike when the Nintendo years, when Retro Studios would be pumping out hit after hit, the Microsoft years were far less kind to Rareware Studios. I'm saying the wrong company. But the Microsoft years were far less kind for Rareware. And they made games that, well, were still decent. They weren't the massive, like, hits that they were spawning in the 90s. And then they ended up being relegated to a Kinect developer for a long time before they eventually were allowed to make like the pirate game Sea of Thieves, which ended up being one of their most beloved and iconic games from the studio. But then they were working on a new game called Everwild, but that game got canceled by Microsoft in favor of shutting down productions to save money so they could have a bigger number for their investors to look at. The wonders of being owned by a publicly traded company that will support you just so as long as it's convenient for them before they eventually decide to drop you like a rock because they think that your service isn't going to increase their quarterly earnings. It makes me think, if you really want to make a company that will have some form of integrity to avoid being, publicly traded, basically be a Valve is what I'm saying. That's the best way to go about things. Because they're not publicly traded and they're widely considered one of the best gaming companies out there. So be a Valve. Don't get bought by Microsoft. That is a very bad idea. Sure, You may think you're going to have endless money and resources from the big one of the richest companies in the world, but they're one of the richest companies in the world for a reason. They make the cuts where they think it's necessary to keep their stock price going. Yeah. It's like signing a deal with the devil, basically. All right. Well, anyways, moving on. I got carried away with that. But yeah, But the video was more so about Banjo Kazooie nuts and bolts gameplay mechanics and how satisfying the gameplay as a whole was to the guy who made the video. He had a really interesting accent. I don't know how to describe it. It was like kind of like a Brooklyn sounding accent, I would say. It made the video more entertaining and fun to listen to, for sure. Then I decided to look up a video about VR shoes that are being worked on that look really cool. I definitely would totally get those if I had the money for them, but currently for Kickstarter, if you want to get them, they're about $1,200, and I gotta be honest, I am in no position to be spending anything like that kind of money right now, so I'm avoiding that like the plague, until I have an income that would allow me to comfortably spend that amount of money on VR shoes. But it's fun to watch from a distance. Then my mom and my sister arrived. They were at a woman coming from a women's meeting, and they showed little trinkets they made that were handcrafted. My sister asked me which one was mom's and which one was hers, and I guessed them correctly because I know mom likes blue, and the blue one's obviously going to be here. My sister made one with golden red ribbons. It was these clocks, I think, but I'm not 100% sure. And then my mom decided to go off the diet today by eating the cake that she baked for the women's meeting, a slice of cake. She asked if I was interested. I was like, no, I'm going to stick through this diet thick or thin. But then I remembered, my company's having a potluck on Tuesday. I did say I was going to eat naughty on Thanksgiving, but I didn't say anything about the potluck for Tuesday. Should I eat naughty on Tuesday for the potluck? I mean, it is the holiday season, and I mean, I would feel kind of like I'm being exclusionary by not doing something like that. And plus, it's free food and free quality food at that. And I always like baking cookies and bringing them over. I mean, I guess I'd be willing to be loosey-goosey for those 2 days, the Tuesday potluck and the Thursday Thanksgiving. But yeah, after that, it's back to eating good until I get to my ideal weight, and then I can not just suddenly start eating nothing but garbage, but start being more mindful with what I put into my body. Well, anyways, then my mom wanted to watch a video with me, so we were browsing different videos. We came across a cave painting video. We weren't really paying attention to it. Then we came across a guy who said manifest your best possible future. So we watched that, and the whole video was basically about him raising your vibrational frequencies, and everything starts with what you think about yourself. All reality starts with thoughts. So if you can redirect your thoughts to being positive or constructive, or focusing on building something rather than tearing yourself down, then you're more likely to build a prosperous future versus constantly having negative self-talk to yourself, or just looking at the dark side instead of the bright side of things. It made sense to me, I guess. And got into really deep into the weeds about it, talking about the meta consciousness, and how we can remove ourselves from us being the game character in the game, and instead look at through a different lens where we're the player who is aware that we're playing the game but the character isn't, and look at it through the player's perspective. Things like that. It was a pretty deep dive. And after that, my mom needed to go to bed, and throughout the whole video watching session, we were snuggling our cats. But Malcolm, one of our orange cats, sneezed on me, which I did not like at all. I had to wash that off. And so my mom went to bed. I was really itchy in the head, and I wanted to do like a Focus 10 gateway tape meditation as I was going to sleep tonight. So I decided to wash my head with anti-dandruff shampoo and put moisture cream on my face, so I wouldn't have any itchy skin all around my head when trying to get into the Focus 10 state. Took my vitamins, I brushed my teeth, I took mouthwash and spat it out. And then I decided to record this video. And that's pretty much the day. Overall, I'm grateful that I was able to stick to my diet today. It shows a good resilience and integrity of choosing to do what I would like to do. I am very grateful for my fascination and curiosity with things like exploring consciousness and making good choices and thinking about like being in that mind space of how to take control and not be overwhelmed by negativity. And I'm grateful for my family as always. My sister that called the morning, it was nice to see her. My mom, my cats, my youngest sister, grateful for all of them, and my middle sister too. We all got each other's backs, and that's awesome. Well, that's pretty much it for now. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Have yourself a great night. Take care.